Hi friends, we're going to be setting up our reading notebook. So on the front, make sure you put that it's reading. And since I have so many, I put the year and that it was 5th grade. And you have your Q1 notes. So what you're going to do is you're going to look through your notes, look and see what it is. I would pause the video after that, and then I would follow the directions and restart it when you're ready to move on. I hope that makes sense. So the first one that we're going to do is the sticky notes that you have. Before, in another video, I mentioned this is how I do it. But if you didn't already watch the video, I'm going to show you again. I take sticky notes and I cut them in half. I take the sticky part, I try to cut them a little bit straighter than that, and I cut them usually in like a third. And then I have the sticky tab. I write on the top and I stick it in the notebook. So the first thing that I want you guys to write is reading strategies. Reading strategies. That is things that we use to help us become better readers. So the first one that I want you to cut out and then glue using your glue stick that I said you needed is tackle tricky words. What do you do if you find words that you don't know? Ask yourself, do I know this word from somewhere else? Think about where I might have heard this word somewhere before. How was it used? What could it possibly mean? Could it be an expert word that is specific to a technical term? It's called domain-specific vocabulary, like in science. Only in science we'll be talking about some specific words, so it might be specific to that one topic. Are there clues I can use to figure out what this word means? Like context clues? Can I look at the different parts of the words, like suffixes or prefixes or root words, Greek or Latin root words? Can we put it together? Like in this part, it says observe, which you can see or watch, and able means you can do it. So observable means you can see or watch something. So you're going to cut out and glue with a glue stick. Do not use white glue because then it gets really wet. And we're going to put that on the front. Tackle tricky words. And I had to glue it on top of my little sticky note, which is fine because it'll keep it from falling down or ripping off. And the next one that we need to do are the genres of fiction. I'm going to move this over here so we can see it. Genres of fiction. We have realistic fiction, which is a story that hasn't happened, but it could because it has realistic qualities. Like it has human characters, or it's something that could happen, or it's set in a time that is happening right now. Historical fiction is something that could happen, but it hasn't. But it's set in a historical time. A lot of times, like the I Survive series, that's a historical fiction book. Then we have science fiction. Ooh, those are the fun ones, like Star Wars. They're set in the future. Sometimes they have robots, or they're in space, or they're time travel. That's all science fiction. Fantasy is fiction as well, but it's things that are so out of this world, magical elements, talking animals, things that couldn't happen in real life is fantasy. So that is going to be your second page. It's quite large, so you'll have to cut it and glue it, and it'll take up the majority of your page. The next one is more genres. Folk tales. Those are stories that are set in the past, but they're passed down from generation to generation, like fairy tales, Cinderella, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast. A lot of those stories that Disney has taken on. A tall tale is a folk tale has so many exaggerations. It's told as if it were true, but it's also meant to be funny. Like Johnny Appleseed or Paul Bunyan. A fable is a very short folk tale, but it tells us a lesson. It teaches us something. It has a moral of the story. Like Aesop's fables, The Tortoise and the Hare, or The Boy Who Cried Wolf. A legend is a folk tale that usually has some connection to a real historical figure or an event. And it kind of mixes facts and something that really happened with things that didn't happen. and it's kind of hard to know which one's which. And a myth is a folk tale that explains something about the world and how it has happened. Kind of like the Midas touch and anything from Greek mythology or Roman mythology. So these two, make sure they're on the right pages, genres of fiction and folk tales. So far we have 3 pages done. And the last two is reading comprehension strategies, like making connections. What does this remind me of? Have I heard this before? I can think about a time where I've lived through this, or I've heard of this before, or I've read about this in another book, so I can connect what I'm reading to what I've already learned about or experienced myself. Visualizing, which is like having a movie inside of your mind. How do you picture what's going on? What is going on in that movie in your mind? That is visualizing, trying to picture a visual of what you're reading. Another strategy that you can use while you're reading is asking questions. Reading is thinking. You always have to ask yourself questions to understand the story better. Why is this happening? What happened as a result? Why are these characters acting this way? What happened in their history or their relationship to make them act like that towards each other? What else might happen? What's going to happen next? There's a lot of questions that you could ask yourself. Infer. To infer is to take what you know and what you read and come up with some conclusions. Make a guess. I wonder why. I wonder how. I wonder if. Another thing is to determine the importance. What is the big idea? What is this story mostly about? If I had to tell someone what this story was about in 2 sentences, what would I say? Why would I include that? What is important to remember? And then the last one is synthesize. How do I use what I've read to create my own ideas? Now that I learned this, what can I do with this information? The next page is close reading. What do you do while you're reading? I can preview the text. I can number the paragraphs. I can underline the topic sentences or circle powerful words or draw a star next to important ideas. Or I can put a question mark next to something that doesn't make sense. I could put boxes or underlines around words that I don't know. I could put a heart next to something that I really enjoyed. I could put E next to evidence that supports what I'm going to be writing about. I can write my thoughts in the margin or any connections that I made. These are things that you're going to be referring to a lot, so make sure that you put this in your notebook. Every time that we do a reading, a passage as a model, I am going to be doing it as a close read, which means we are going to be reading it at least twice and possibly 3 times, and we are going to be marking the text using this key. So it's really important that you have this in your notebook. So that is what we are going to be using first. So the next sticky note you can write is elements of fiction, because next week we are going to be learning about plot. Let me see here. Plot and conflict and resolution and characters and setting. And so elements of fiction is the next sticky note. You don't need to put all the sticky notes on right now because we don't exactly know how many pages is with each section. So we'll just do it as we go.